and welcome to this quick video about how the public speaking group works and how to get the most out of it. So what actually is public speaking anxiety? Well, public speaking anxiety is an anxiety or fear response in the context of speaking in front of other people, normally multiple people. So even just over one or two people, because then they have formed a group and you are now for your social brain in a public space. So often we think about public speaking anxiety as somebody speaking on a stage to 400 people or so, and that is true, but it is also the more everyday, is speaking up in a peer group, disagreeing with your colleagues in a group, delivering a presentation at work. And it can fall under two elements, but fundamentally it all comes down a lot of the time to fear of judgment, fear of negative judgment. That can be partly around acceptance, so wanting to feel accepted within the group that you are speaking to, like you belong in that space. And it can also be about competence, not wanting to come across incompetent at the task at hand, or if you were to mess it up in some way. Some people relate to one of these, some people relate to both, but both of these elements contribute to a very strong fear of judgment or negative evaluation that triggers a lot of anxiety in the moment of being perceived. A lot of people say, is it not just a competency issue? Like if I learn more structure, more skills, how to speak, etc., then wouldn't I be better at it or not feel anxious? That might be true for some people, but I think the question to ask yourself is, when you feel safe, can you speak? For example, when you speak to a close friend or your partner or whoever it is and you feel completely safe, are you having an anxiety response to this degree? Do you feel like you don't even know what to say or your brain will freeze? If not, we already know then that you have the skill and ability to speak. It's just in these situations where you're being mass perceived, you are having an anxiety response so strong that you cannot access the skill you already have. The ethos of this group is you don't need to learn how to speak, you already know how to speak. We need to rewire your fear brain so that you're feeling safe in the moment of perception, so that there's no anxiety blocking you from doing what you would do in any other situation where there wasn't an audience or a group, aka developing an absence of problematic anxiety, because we might always feel some anxiety, a little bit of activation, but something that really just doesn't need management or is causing any problem at all. Many people wonder why they feel like this, and it is the difference between the logical side of your brain, the part of your brain that knows there's no real threat, nothing can actually happen, and the part of your brain in the moment, the fear brain, that is triggering a fear and threat response anyway. It is seeing danger anyway, which is why out of the moment you can know this isn't a big deal, and in the moment this is seriously a big deal. And this is why you can't logic your way out of public speaking anxiety. In the moment, the fear brain does not respond to logic at all. What we're talking about is moving through the window of authentic expression. So each of us have these three levels when we're speaking. When we talk about feeling anxiety, we are often talking about hyperarousal. This is that state when you're feeling anxious, you're feeling fear, maybe even anger, like somebody criticizes you in front of a group and you might have almost a defensive anger. That can be part of hyperarousal, lots of racing thoughts, fear of judgment, fear of reputational damage, etc. This is hyperarousal and physical symptoms. The opposite is hypoarousal. It's that shutdown, it's that brain freeze. Shame, maybe even, can feel quite low. Often a lot of people go into hyperarousal afterwards, but many people can go into hyperarousal during public speaking. And we are all moving through these three states, and the one where we are speaking confidently and safely is the regulated state. We're feeling connected, grounded, we have presence, we're feeling safe. And that doesn't mean that the environment isn't challenging, but it means that we are still able to stay in this green space anyway. It's not about never moving into hyperarousal or never moving into hyperarousal. These are normal human states. But it's about firstly making the regulated space larger so that it's much harder to be pushed into hyper or hyperarousal. You've got more space to breathe essentially. And secondly, it's about, even when we do move into these red and blue states, how we can come back to the green state quickly rather than get stuck there, which is what many people do, and then the anxiety and the stress escalate. How we change the fear brain then to be able to stay in the green more, stop activating so much, is twofold. Firstly, we want exposure to the situation, that is exposure to public speaking itself. And secondly, we want exposure to anxiety itself. So for a lot of people, the situation isn't the only problem. And for some people, it's not the problem at all. The problem is the experience of anxiety in front of other people. We're okay if we experience anxiety at home, but if we're having anxiety in front of other people, then it becomes a problem. We don't want it to be seen because of what that might mean or what might happen. So we begin to develop a fear of fear itself. What if my mind goes blank? What if my voice shakes? That is fear of anxiety itself in the context of a social situation. So just by coming to the group, you are overcoming avoidance. But what we also look at is overcoming safety behaviors. Safety behaviors are behaviors we do to protect ourselves in the situation from the fear of judgment or the experience of anxiety. They are very clever behavioral adaptations, but the problem is, even when we're overcoming avoidance, we're still not fully exposing ourselves to the fear because of these protective behaviors. So for example, subtle avoidance is you're in the meeting, you're on the stage, you're there, you're not physically avoiding it, but you're avoiding the feared outcomes. So for example, you don't say anything of meaning, because if you don't say anything of meaning, then no one can really judge anything. Impression management is attempting to control how you come across, saying things that you don't actually agree with, behaving a certain way, all these ways to try prevent, again, a fear of judgment and come across quote unquote well. And anxiety management, trying to control your anxiety and or the perception of it. And all of these safety behaviors in the moment feel good. They feel like they help you cope, but they actually contribute to anxiety in the long term because they mean you're never actually getting full exposure to the situation and therefore feeling safe. So on this graph on the left, we've got the anxiety-inducing social situation, the meeting you have to run, and you change your behavior. You do a safety behavior. You let someone else speak up. You don't speak. You don't say what you really think. All of these things. You sit on your hands to hide them shaking. And it does reduce your anxiety in the short term. But what it does is it teaches your fear brain that one, this really was a situation that needed to be avoided or something to be scared of. So your anxiety grows in the background. And two, you are never getting exposure to the actual fear of judgment that these behaviors are protecting you from. So the next time the situation occurs, you are even more anxious. And a lot of the time, you don't even know you're doing the behaviors. They become so habitual. Where we want to get to is this graph on the right. Each time you're exposing yourself gently, not all at once, and not in a sort of catastrophic way, to gently tolerate being seen a little bit more, taking away these protective behaviors one by one, and each time with regular exposure. It's about reps. Your system rewires, the fear brain learns this is not dangerous, I can do it. Anxiety dissipates and your confidence grows. And so a lot of the behaviors we see in good public speakers, like eye contact, open body posture, speaking slowly and calmly, etc., they're doing this because they feel safe. They're in a very regulated place. It's not something they're forcing as much as something that is happening as a symptom of safety. And I know a lot of public speaking groups teach good structure and skills and pacing and these kind of things. And I think the first thing to say is what even is good. Often we're talking about some sort of polished, scripted norm that really differs by culture, type of environment, all of these different things. But secondly, would often be achieved if you were calm anyway. But secondly, it also takes away from your unique characteristics, your unique way of speaking, your unique experience, your unique diversities, all of these things. They are what make you you. And when you really allow that to be seen, that makes you very magnetic as a speaker because it brings people in. But I also get that sometimes skills are needed, like you're doing a pitch or sales or something like that, and you need a clear structure, and you need a hooking first sentence, all of these things. That can be true, but skills and structure come after safety and anxiety reduction. And the reason for this is if you learn skills and everything first, they just become the new safety behaviors. They become the new thing you do to help manage anxiety and prevent fear of judgment and feel safe. But if you don't have enough time to do them, you don't have enough time to prepare and prep, then you feel anxious again because they've just become protective behaviors. You don't actually feel safe without them. But once you feel safe and confident just being yourself speaking, then they can be very nice to add on because you can pick and choose what works for you. You often find, and I hear this from a lot of people, that the more safe and confident you feel speaking, the less interest you actually have in learning skills because you find you're actually doing a lot of them anyway. Don't worry if you don't remember all of these things. We go into them in detail in the group, but it's just to give you a sense of the theory and know that this is a very safe space and you will never ever be made to do anything that you don't want to do because that would actually trigger anxiety so much it would be counterproductive. So I'll see you there.